The opinions shared on this show reflect those of the individual speaker and not of any 12-Step Fellowship as a whole. And though we discuss 12-Step recovery and the impact it had in our lives, we do not promote or endorse any 12-Step Anonymous program. It's time for the Share Recovery Podcast, where we bring you amazing life-changing success stories from addicts and alcoholics all over the world who share their inspiring journey in recovery. And now, here's your host, O.
On today's episode of the Share Podcast, Raquel, with 5 years clean, takes us through 9 years of drug and alcohol abuse. She started drinking at the age of 9 when her family moved to Costa Rica, and by the age of 16 is now smoking weed, doing coke, and taking ecstasy. Her troubles multiply when she figures out how to get into the local bars for ladies' night without an ID. She attempts a geographic change by moving to the U.S. to finish high school and get into college. Now living in Santa Barbara and going to community college in one of California's #1 schools for rock star partying, Raquel finds her bottom. She overdoses on heroin, alcohol, and a cocktail of other drugs. Wakes up in a hospital bed only to awaken by the phone call that would eventually save her life. It's a moving and impactful story of recovery. Don't miss this episode.
Hey Raquel, thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning, O. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to hear you share your story. You ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. So Raquel, let's dive right in. Tell us about how your life is today, your hobbies, what you do for a living. Take us into your normal daily routine, including recovery.
Okay, well, I guess my normal routine, kind of just on a day-to-day basis, I get up, I go to work, or I go to the gym first and then go to work. And then after work, I usually go to a meeting. I go to meetings about 4 to 5 times a week. Depending on what day it is, I might meet with my sponsor. I meet with her once a week as well. And I don't know, it's pretty, I have, I guess, a routine for most of my day. Each day is pretty much the same in terms of I go to work. If I can, I get to a meeting or I talk to my sponsor, and I go to the gym. I love the gym.
Let's talk a little bit about the gym, because that, from what I have seen on Facebook, is almost as obsessive as the drug use.
I really love the gym. It's something that, I don't know, when I first got clean, my first sponsor told me that, you know, if you're going to change your life, you're going to change everything, you know. So I kind of, she was really into exercise, and she's like, you need to start taking care of yourself. So it really just started with that, you know, eating better. And in rehab, we went to the gym every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, which I wasn't a fan of being going so early, but I did find that I liked the gym. I like to get my blood flowing, and it's kind of evolved from there. I've tried yoga, I've tried, you know, running, and what I've gotten into more in the recent years is weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures. You do like squats, deadlifts,
yeah.
You know, things like really intense, heavy lifting,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I reached my max the other day. I did a maximum deadlift of 210 pounds.
Oh, my God.
Which is over my weight, so I was pretty proud of that.
It actually is. I weigh 206 right now. I may be being a little generous with myself.
I could deadlift you.
Yes, you can. Oh, man, that is really good stuff. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the past now. Okay. So how old were you the first time you drank or used drugs, and more importantly, how did they make you feel?
Well, the first time, I mean, growing up in my family, our parents always gave us like little sips of alcohol here and there. It was just something that my parents didn't really view as wrong. I don't know if it was or not, but the first time I guess I ever really got drunk was at 9 years old. My sister and I we were hanging out at the house. My parents had gone away, I don't know, to like the neighbor's house or something, and they were gone for a few hours, and there was always like a generous amount of wine and alcohol in the house, and we snuck a bottle, opened it up, and drank it both together. We got drunk for the first time, and even those little sips of alcohol, I just always remember, like, I wanted that. Like, I didn't even realize, you know, when we stole that bottle that it was going to make me drunk. I just thought, oh, I'm going to get, like, this little giddy feeling. But when I got, you know, falling over drunk at 9 years old, I was like, wow, this is, like, the most magical feeling in the world. It was, like, better than any Disney movie I ever saw.
Well, so far you get the youngest award for from the interviews I've done so far. Most people are like, I started at 12, I started at 13. You started at 9.
Yeah. It wasn't a regular thing at 9, but that was the first time I got drunk.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, let's just dive into your story. It's time for me to turn the show over to you, Raquel. Your battle against drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life, when you hit rock bottom, and finally your journey into recovery up until today. So, Raquel, take it away.
All right. Well, like I just told you a little bit, I started drinking young. I don't really remember a lot of my childhood, in all honesty. A lot of it is just, I don't know. I don't know if it's blanked out or I just don't remember it. But I do remember, the few things I remember as a young child is I always felt very, I guess now I know the word for it today is ungrateful, but I just always felt something was off. Like I would see other people and, they'd be like kids smiling at school or, I don't know, adults just happy to be living their lives. And I didn't get it. Like I really didn't get how people could go through life with, that much of a smile on their face and being that enthusiastic about it. So, I just always felt very weird. Like I felt like I couldn't share that with anybody because most of the people around me were just very happy, very, like socially, I don't know, I was very socially awkward and everyone just seemed to be the opposite in my head. So I didn't really share that with anybody. I was a very quiet kid. And when I had little chances to, express myself, it was usually in the form of, hanging out with my dad who I love my dad, but you'll hear later on in the story, I guess he does get clean, but for most of my young life, he was an addict, so be hanging out with him in the garage and he was smoking weed or like, I'd be sitting with my parents and they were drinking. I always gravitated towards that. Even like my uncle, my uncles and aunts, when we went to go visit them, I wanted to sit with the ones that were drinking the most because I found it entertaining and I wanted to be like that.
Of course.
I was like, wow, they're so awesome. I want to be around you. Like,
just amazing role models.
And so, I even going into elementary school, I was kind of a geek, I was very quiet. I did very well in school. I was in the, the honors and the GATE program. So I did all these weird stuff that people thought were really stupid, like go to space camp and join the science club. I was in band. I played the trumpet and I was excelling at all these things, but I just still felt like so, I don't know, like unloved and misunderstood, I guess.
You played the trumpet?
Yeah, I did. I don't play it anymore.
So you were a band geek.
I was a band geek.
Oh, man. For those of you listening, you're not going to see a picture of Raquel, but this geeky trumpet-playing band geek is, like, beautiful, young, and with a six-pack, all right? So she's so far from band geek, it's ridiculous. So
those are my roots. Those are my roots. I'll always remember that. I loved playing the trumpet, and I guess that's how I felt about a lot of things I loved. I loved them, but I couldn't share them with anybody, and because they seemed to be the wrong kind of thing. They weren't necessarily socially acceptable, whether it be something as simple as playing in a band and that being geeky, or wanting to gravitate towards people that were getting high and drinking. Right. And but that's what I did. I continued to do that anyway because, heck, I really wasn't talking to anyone about it, so I was just doing what I wanted to do. My family's from Costa Rica. It's something we did every year is we came down here to visit family and go to the beach and just kind of, see a different part of the world and gain some perspective. And one thing I started, doing when I was coming down here is, you can be 9 years old and go up to, the bar and get a drink for your parents and just like, oh, it's for my mom. And they'll give you a drink, and you're like, oh, okay, that's not for my mom anymore. So, and, my parents were drinking. They were here having a good time anyway, so they didn't really, I don't know if they didn't pay attention or they just didn't really care, but, that was something, every time I came down here, it was like a little getaway, it was a little escape, it was a little taboo place that no one really cared what you were doing. And eventually, we ended up moving down here. I was 11 years old, and my parents decided that they wanted to go ahead and try living somewhere else, so we came here to Costa Rica. And that was just like, it was a dream for me. I was so ready at that point to get away because I'd gone through, kindergarten through sixth grade and made no friends and it has been like completely isolated and just in my head for all those years. So I was like, okay, maybe if I try somewhere else, that'll be good. And, I came here and who wouldn't love living in Costa Rica at that age? We were living in a beach town. I could go surfing every day. I could get drunk. And the drunk part wasn't like the forefront of my mind. I was thinking, all these other reasons, like I could start over. I can have this amazing life, And right. I went to school the first day. I went to a private school over there at the beach. And the first day I went home with some girls, they were nice to me and said, hey, you want to come over after school? And that first day, I ended up spending the night at their house and we started drinking. And that kind of became like my little group that I was hanging out with. It was a very small school. My graduating class was like 3 people. So, it was just a very small school. Everyone was very close, and those are the people I had to hang out with. And they were great people, but it seems to be like that's what people do at the beach. They drink.
Oh, for sure. Every beach community in Costa Rica is like a drinking mecca.
It is. It's so strange. And, so of course it was like I was gravitating towards those people before, and then all of a sudden that's all I had surrounding me. So I was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven, and they get it. They want to drink too. No one's questioning about why I want to do it. And, like I said, I moved here at 11, and it was in that first year that I was here that I even ended up like trying coke and trying ecstasy for the first time. And it was strange. I was going out to bars with my friends. We all looked a little bit older than 11, so, we can go and, like, hang out with the guys and have them buy us drinks, that we're visiting from out of town. And I was just like, man, this is it. Like, I found it. I never want to leave here. And I don't know. For a few years that worked. I'm not going to say I was miserable because I very much enjoyed having that as my space.
But this was at 11.
At 11, yeah.
You were doing cocaine at 11.
Yes. I tried it for the first time. It really wasn't something I liked at first. I was like, wow, that was like super intense. I've honestly always been more of a downer person. I didn't like being that like crazy up, and just awake. I mean, really most of my life I wanted to be asleep. I didn't want to deal with what was going on. So that was a little bit too awake for me. But it was something, if you do it consistently, it kind of becomes a habit physically and mentally and emotionally. So,
oh, yeah.
So I kept doing that. I dabbled through a variety of drugs. When I was 13, I got my first boyfriend he went to the same school that I did, but he was kind of like the drug dealer of the town. Again, my natural gravitation towards, a certain type of person.
Right, of course.
And
dysfunction seeks dysfunction.
It's you definitely get out, or you definitely get what you put out there, and that's what I was putting out there.
It's true.
And so I thought I was in love. It was my first boyfriend. And I mean, heck, he gave me, all the drugs, all the alcohol, a place to stay that I wanted. And that was great. That was for a few years. And I was like, wow, I'm in love. I have all these substances around me. Like, what could get better than this? And it's weird, because that was, through I was with him for 3 years, so ages 13 through 16. And I was still going to school through this time. I was still doing really well in school. I got straight A's all through high school and middle school. And, I played soccer, volleyball. I mean, I was a very active kid, but it was just like anything I did, I'm like, okay, this is nice, but like let's go back and get high, or like let's do this high, or let's get high. Like I didn't care what it was. I always wanted to go back to that because nothing else is really as good without that,
Right.
And there was just a point where it wasn't even about being good, I guess. I can't really even tell you exactly where it turned. I just know that there was one point where I just started fighting with everybody, and I just started that feeling that so many of us know as addicts, of being uneasy and restless and just constantly irritated with that itch that you cannot scratch ever. I just started feeling that on a daily basis, and this was also a time where, I used to wake up every day and I used to have really, really bad, I don't know if it was acid reflux or what, but I woke up every morning and I was just feeling nauseous. And I thought, okay, well, it's because I'm hungover or I'm detoxing off something. But I stopped using stuff for a while, and I woke up every morning, and it was this anxiety that just made me have rolling nausea, from the moment I woke up until about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And I just woke up every morning just feeling so incapable of handling my life. And this was about age 16 that this happened. It was about the time I broke up with my boyfriend. Because I was at that point where I don't think any of this is working for me, and I don't really know what else to do.
Right.
So I stopped for a while. That didn't end up working. So it was only a few months, but then I dove right back into it. I was like, well, that wasn't working. Let me just do what I was doing before. And by this time, when I dove back into it, then I was doing coke on a regular basis. I was taking ecstasy on a regular basis. I was smoking every day, smoking weed, drinking. I mean, at this point, I knew all the ladies' nights for all the different bars, so I went to a different ladies' night every night. Never had to pay for my drinks. I had it figured out.
And again, this is at 16.
This is at 16, yeah.
Wild.
And I did that for a year. At this point, my father was getting into recovery, and my parents were getting divorced. I didn't want to talk to my dad because, prior to this, he was someone that supported me. Not supported me, he didn't encourage me to do it, but, I mean, if I saw him out getting high and he saw me out getting drunk, and be like, okay, well, don't tell your mom. And I'd be like, okay,
oh, wow.
You don't tell my mom. And it's like, okay, and we'll just go our separate ways. And all of a sudden, like this person that had my back and would, co-sign my bullshit wasn't willing to do that anymore. And that sucked. I was like, man, no, you've been on my side for all these years. Why'd you have to go to the other side? You went to the dark side of my mind. And I didn't want to talk to him. Looking back at it, that's one of the things I think I did that hurt someone the most that I loved. I completely shut him out. My parents were getting a divorce, so he moved out, and he'd come by. He's like, can we just talk? Can we just hang out? Can I still have a relationship with my daughter? And I just basically said, fuck you. You abandoned me. I already didn't know what I was doing, and now I don't have you anymore. So no, go away. And that's just what I ended up doing with everyone in my life. I tried to geographically get away from that all. And I decided to go for my last year of high school to the States. I wanted to go ahead and graduate early, just get my GED, and then start going to college because I was doing good in school. And I was like, okay, I think I can probably get into a good school. So I went to my last year at high school in Upland, California. And it was almost like a repeat of my elementary school. I was there for 6 months. I did graduate early. Actually, I didn't end up graduating early, but I was there for 6 months. I didn't speak a word to anybody, and I just got drunk every day. So without getting drunk every day, it was very much like a repeat of my elementary. I was just like, God, I kept on landing on my feet in different places, and I just couldn't stand up, is the way that I felt at that time. So, I was living with my aunt and uncle, and I'd be ciphering, bits out of their booze and replacing the bottles and then just keeping ones under my bed. And I was like, this isn't working. This is just too much hiding. I felt like I was having to hide myself again after being able to be so obnoxiously free with my addiction, in my high school years. So I meant to graduate early. I finished all of my work and then I did some online schooling combined with the schooling I was doing at the local high school. And instead of handing in the work at the end to get my diploma, I bailed and I went to college. So I never ended up getting my high school diploma.
But you started college.
But I started college. I enrolled at a community college to go ahead and just get that stuff going because I wanted to complete the English course that I needed the second semester, so I only had to do it in one half of the year instead of doing both parts of the year. So, I went to college. I actually ended up going to Santa Barbara City College. And I love Santa Barbara. It's a very beautiful place. I remember moving there and once again feeling, oh my God, this is a college party town. Everyone just wants to get drunk. I met so many people that were, had ambitions like, I want to get drunk at least 5 times a week, but like blackout drunk, and I heard people saying that. I'm like, I found my people. This is where.
Well, you were in Isla Vista, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't in IV. I was actually a little bit outside because I didn't go to the UC. I went to the city college.
But did you party in IV?
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time there. I spent too much time there. I have some very dark memories from IV that definitely helped me hit my bottom,
Okay, well, if you want to share a couple of those, we're more than happy to hear them.
They're bits and pieces in all honesty, and I'll get to that in a second because really when I first went to Santa Barbara, I fell into a group of friends. I went to a kickboxing class. That was my first class in my summer semester. And they were just really nice girls, They didn't drink. They didn't party. But they were nice, and they really seemed to like me, and they took me under their wing, and they're like, hey, let me show you the town and different places. And so I stopped for a while. I was smoking at home, but I was like, okay, I can keep this tame. And that was for the summer when I first got there. And I don't know what happened. There was just like this. I was walking in the street. I had a job. I was working there like at one of those kiosks that sold like hair curlers or something like. And I was walking through the outdoor mall, and there was this guy playing guitar. And he had the most beautiful voice and was playing this super nice song. And I was like, oh, my God, that sounds so nice. And he's like, well, come inside. I'll buy you a drink. And I'm like, he doesn't know I'm 21. I'm in the States at this point. I'm like, I'm legally able to drink in Costa Rica, but do I really care? No. He's buying me a drink, so they won't ask me for an ID. So I'm like, okay. And I sat there, and I ended up spending a lot of different nights there because they had a very nice wine list. And guys bought me drinks. So
of course.
That got me right back into it. And,
So timeline-wise, you were what, 18, 19, 20, how old?
Oh, at this age, I was just turning 18.
Okay, got it.
And so, that's all it really took. I didn't really have intentions of, let me, smash my life again. But, I've always loved the feeling of being drunk. I can't lie about that, especially because the first thing I, used to drink was wine. And that's what I drank with my parents. That's what I drank with my sisters. That's what I drank with my family. I don't know. There was always a weird connection with that. And so I started doing that again. I started drinking, and then I found another group of friends to hang out with instead. And one of those guys happened to be someone who was bringing in heroin to that part of town. I'm sure there was many people, but it was just a person that was doing that.
Right.
And of course, naturally my instinct to gravitate towards these type of people, I was like, I got to go make out with this guy, And I'm not going to be mean. Like, I'm going to be mean, actually. He was not the most attractive guy, but he was kind.
Did it even matter?
No. He was a very kind guy.
Okay.
But the most attractive thing, let's face it, in the end, was that I found another way. I didn't think about it at this point in time, but I was just like, I want to spend time with this guy. I just thought, like, this is natural. This is me being true to myself. I always told myself that. I just want to hang out with who I want to hang out with. Why would I deny myself that? It's being true to myself. Today I have a very different concept of that, but that's what I used to tell myself, ironically. So yeah, I started hanging out with a crowd like that. And I got into heroin. Honestly, I smoked it a lot more than I ever shot it. I probably only shot it like 2 or 3 times. The needle stuff always scared me. But smoking it, I was like, wow, like, this is amazing. Amazing in the fact that, like I said, like, I had always just wanted to be knocked out from life. Like, I can be here, but I don't really want to be here. And that's exactly what I was able to find with heroin. I didn't mind being asleep most of my life, and this was actually letting me fall asleep in my life. So I was like,
no kidding.
Wow, like, this is, I cannot describe to you how in love, like, I've never felt up until I got clean so in love with something in my life and so grateful. That was the gratitude I had before I got clean. I'm like, wow, thank you, God. Like, thank you for giving this to me. Like, you really love me. Like, delusional.
Oh, man, deluded on another level, man.
I thought, wow, like, that's amazing, and so I started hanging out with this group of people who, like I said, they just had ambitions of, they were there to party. And this is the first time in school that I was going to school at the time still, and this is the first time in school that my grades actually started slipping. For the first time in my life, like, I got an F in school. I was so ashamed. I'm like, what is happening to me? Why is this not working? It's always worked. And, it went from, the course of I was only using heroin for about 6 months. And it was heroin with a combination of alcohol, and then I picked up Xanax, and I was still smoking weed, and it was just a combination of things that I was doing. And it was a 6-month period where it was just full of a lot of, I couldn't stop blacking out, I guess. And I got really tired of not being able to act like I knew what was going on. It happened where, for instance, we go out to Isla Vista, and, I'm going there with my boyfriend, right, and, like, with a group of people,
right. And
I wake up the next day with no recollection of what happened in someone else's bed I don't know with nothing but my shoes on.
Oh.
Or I took up, modeling at the time when I was there, because there's a couple of well-known photographers in Santa Barbara that do modeling. And, I ended up doing modeling for some guy that, he's like, just take your shirt off. Just take this off, and you can imagine where that kind of situation went. And
absolutely. And
coming home to my roommate that I loved, she was a good friend of mine, and she was a very good girl. She didn't do anything. Well, she drank, but she didn't drink like I did. And her being like, oh, I'm so excited to see your modeling pictures, and more being like, I lost the flash drive that he gave me. Just like so much shame and guilt about all these different things I was doing and trying to hide it and keep up my story and be like, no, like, what I'm doing is actually okay, right? Because I couldn't remember it. How could I say that, how can I even make up a lie if I didn't even know where I was or what time I was there? And it was just more and more of that. And I started working for a guy as well when I was in Santa Barbara that he managed hotels, and I ended up spending a lot of time with him. We went out to one of his hotels one time in Ojai, and he knew that I drank, and he knew that I got high. And, just even situations like this where he, knowing that, just offered me a bottle of wine, slipped something in it, and next thing I know, I'm waking up the next morning, and I'm sore in places that, I shouldn't be sore. Just lots of situations like that happening at the end of my using, and just... I just didn't even know what to do anymore. I was just, at that point, I was 18 and I was just ready to be done with life. I couldn't remember anything, which was okay, and I thought I had always wanted that, but, I was still remembering too much, and the parts that I'm remembering were full of fighting and lying and trying to cover my ass and fighting with people that I loved and trying to cut them off. I tried to push my family away completely at this point. I wasn't answering their calls when they came to visit my apartment. I would run out the back door. I was tired of running, and I was tired of trying to hide, and it was just so messed up at that point. And like I said, I wanted to die. I didn't have the guts to put like a gun to my mouth or overdose on like pills or anything, but I wanted to die. I was just hoping, I would conveniently get hit by a bus or, something like that. Or I'd OD one of the times and I'd actually like die instead of just waking up in the hospital the next day and being like, oh, I have an expensive ambulance bill to pay and I have to explain this to my dad and, who at this point was like 4 years clean, and he's just like, really?
Yeah.
They were still paying my rent. They were still enabling me a lot. And, God bless them for just wanting to help me out. But just that was the only time I would talk to them is when they sent me a paycheck each month for my rent. And I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of unmanageability in my life. So I'd stopped drinking and using. No, I lie. I had stopped drinking for a week. I said, my life's getting too crazy. I think it's the alcohol.
Right?
It's
course.
Not the heroin, it's not the Xanax, and it's not the weed. It's the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped drinking for a week, and I was still getting high. And at this point, I would fall asleep with a foil next to my bed with a pen, and wake up and have to do that the first thing I woke up. And I was perfectly happy to just and throw up immediately after sucking it off the foil. I was okay with that. It was the only way that I could get through my day. At this point, I had dropped out of school. I didn't tell my parents, but I was just sitting home and getting high every day. And, of course, getting the supply from my boyfriend. And so, anyway, at this point, I decided to stop drinking for a week. I didn't even say it was going to be a week, but by the time I got to a week, I was really proud of myself. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good. I deserve to have a drink. Because I was sitting home and getting high and passing out, right? So it's not like I got into too much trouble. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get drunk tonight. And I remember I was at home by myself, and I didn't have any alcohol in the house because at this point my roommate was trying to keep alcohol out of the apartment.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so I'm thinking, okay, I had a bunch of friends in my apartment complex. Who can I go to that has alcohol? But no one was home because everyone was in school. So I thought, okay, I know my one friend went to Vegas a few weeks ago, and she had these mini bottles that she had brought back. So I thought, okay, if I throw up what I just ate and go over there and drink them as fast as possible, maybe I'll get a bit of a buzz, and that's enough to get me started. So I just eaten, so I threw up what I ate, because it's, of course, you get more drunk on an empty stomach. And I went over there, I'm like, hey, can I have your mini bottles? And she's like, sure. And it wasn't enough, of course. So I proceeded to call a number of people until, we got this little party started later on that night. And it was, I don't really remember much of it. I only remember 30 minutes of the first night, or of that night. But, it was really just going between my boyfriend's apartment, and that night I did shoot up. So I was shooting up heroin, and then I go to my apartment. We were drinking Captain Morgan and Jägermeister.
Oh,
and
Jägermeister.
And I had popped Xanax in the afternoon, and we were smoking hookah. So I remember it was like a ritualistic routine. It was just like going back and forth. I would smoke the hookah, take 2 shots, go shoot up, and then, take more hookah. And I did that straight for like 30 minutes until I blacked out. And I woke up the next morning in the hospital. I had OD'd on a combination of all that different crap. And my mom and my sister were there. My little sister, I have 2 sisters. And my little sister was sitting on the foot of the bed, and she was playing with my phone, and I was like, hey, I went to go don't look at my phone because she might find something in there I didn't want her to. And I couldn't even speak. My voice was so hoarse. I don't know what had happened exactly, but I had scratches down my throat. I was strapped down to the bed, and I couldn't move. My whole body was completely sore. And I was like, what the fuck happened? And my little sister just gave me this look that I'll never forget. It was just like, you're so disgusting, and I'm not going to talk to you. And I just sat there, and I was like, okay, I don't really know what I can do at this point, but I'm just going to sit here. And my mom came up to me, and she goes, hey, your dad's on the phone. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not ready for this right now. But she puts it the phone to my ear because he's in Costa Rica, and he goes, honey, let me help you. And I'm just like, and it still gets me really teared up when I think about that.
You get me. You just got me.
Just because I can still remember so much how I felt. You know, just like, okay, fine, I'm just going to let my guard up for a second and say, okay. And I said, okay, you know, I said, what do you want me to do? I said, I think I need to go to a place where I can't do this on my own. I need you to, like, put me in a place where they won't let me use. And so I said, okay, I'm going to find a place. And, you know, after that, I hung up and I went to the bathroom, and I remember just looking in the mirror, and I hadn't looked at myself until this, but I looked in the bathroom mirror, and I couldn't even recognize myself. My face was so swollen. I literally could not recognize my nose, my cheeks, my forehead, anything, because I was so swollen from the alcohol or whatever it was that I couldn't even see myself in the mirror. You know, which is like, fuck, okay. It's a good thing I just said yes to something other than what I've been doing. And I don't remember much after that. I went to my mom's house to detox. My mom recently reminded me the other day when we were talking that, you know, I was just like a baby again. You know, I couldn't even wash myself. I was detoxing and throwing up, and I was just shaking and so sore. She had to bathe me for like the first 2 weeks because I couldn't even, like, shower myself. I was really mean to her during that time. I just let me use one last time, Mom. Just give me, please, like, a drink or something. Like, I'm dying. I didn't use anything to detox. They didn't think I needed it, so I didn't use anything. I just painfully and horribly detoxed in my mom's bedroom for 2 weeks until I got to go to rehab here in Costa Rica. I don't know if we're allowed to name names on here, recoveries or anything, but I went to...
First names.
Okay, so I went to Jim's rehab in Costa Rica.
Oh, no, you can talk about the rehab. Yeah,
okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
I can say the name?
Yeah.
Okay. So I went to Costa Rica Recovery in San Jose, Costa Rica. And I got through, and I don't remember much of that time, in all honesty. I don't remember much of my detox. I don't remember much of my first week in rehab. But I know that when I sobered up, there was so much that I did not want to deal with. And I found a very good way not to deal with that. I started just acting out on my old behaviors again, minus the using. I started using guys, hooking up with guys in the rehab, or escaping from the rehab with, you know, my friends, or, you know, just trying to pull shit that, okay, you're in rehab, why are you doing that? You know? I'm like, because I didn't want to think about why I was there. You know, I didn't want to talk about the source of my problems. And one thing I do remember actually about that time is that on the plane ride over, someone had given me a book. It was the AA book, actually, the big book. And I was reading it and highlighting it on the plane ride over, stuff that I thought, okay, if I say this to a therapist, she might be okay with me staying for only 28 days.
Oh, just conning from the start.
Of course. I'm like, I want to be here, but I don't really want to be here. I'm going to count down the days, you know, and just sitting there and being very adamant that, look, I'm staying for 28 days, Jim. There's many efficient rehab clinics in the U.S. that do only 28 days, and they have success rates, okay? None of this 90 days bullshit. Let's do this, and let's do this right. You know, I'm sitting there telling him how we're going to do this, and he's like, okay. Let's get to 28 days first. I'm like, okay. I'm okay with it.
Outstanding.
You know, and I was very adamant. I didn't want to stay past all of my plan, all the work that I did. I was always good at doing written work, so I just, like, busted through that work, and I started working the steps, and my sponsor's like, do it again. I'm like, I just did it, you know? Like, I wasn't picking up on any of it, and a lot of that probably had to do with the fact that I didn't drop my using behaviors immediately. But something happened at about 28 days where I got caught for hooking up with someone in the rehab. And so the director of the rehab gym, he took me on a walk around the block, and I always remember that walk and where it was because, you know, he just sat there and we were walking, and he goes, Raquel, you know, you've been doing this. He laid it out to me very clearly that I was not changing anything, and if that was the way it was going to be, then I can leave his rehab. He says, do you have a choice? He gave me the choice. He's like, you can either be honest with me and tell me what you were actually doing, or you can leave. And I was like, well, it's like the same thing if I tell him he's going to make me leave, right? Because it's against the rules. I'm like, this isn't fair. It's like a catch-22.
Catch-22.
Exactly. But for one reason or another, I decided to just tell him the truth. I'm like, what do I have to leave at this point? And so I told him, and he's like, okay, you can stay. You're staying by yourself at the end of the hall with your door locked, but you can stay. And I was just like, oh my God, I felt such relief at that point for some reason. And I went to the Sunday morning meeting after, and I just cried throughout the entire meeting because I was so relieved. And I didn't even realize that I wanted it until that point when I was sitting there in that meeting and crying. Because I was like, oh my God, I actually want this. I hadn't realized it up until then because I was acting like such, an addict still. And not like I dropped it all immediately, but that's when I actually started to do the work. I stayed there.
And what was the date that you got clean? What was the actual date?
Oh, that was November 16th of 2009.
Got it.
Yeah, 2009. So after that, yeah, I actually, instead of staying 28 days, I stayed 4 months. So I became a little bit more willing on that front.
Looks that way.
And
by the way, folks, Raquel just celebrated 5 years of sobriety. Today is November 20th.
I did.
We went, as a matter of fact, we went out to dinner on Tuesday night to celebrate, and we had just the best time ever.
Yes, it was so fun. We drove the waiters crazy, poor things. They must think we're drunk when we go, but we're really sober, I swear.
God, all they drink is fucking
tea.
jasmine tea.
Oolong tea. These guys are getting crazy. But yeah, so then that's when I started just really focusing on my recovery. And for the first, 3 months or the 3 months after that I was there, I didn't work the steps. I was just focusing on being in rehab and working on, like grief group and, just doing the 4-step program they have there. They have a bunch of different stuff, that they give you at their rehab. It was really great going through that. And but when I got out, or shortly before I got out, I picked up a sponsor. I picked her because she had a British accent, and if I was going to listen to anyone tell me what to do, I was going to listen to it in a voice that I liked.
She is the bomb,
I know,
by the way.
and I found out later through working with her that she was exactly what I needed at that time. She was a godsend. She truly is an angel in my recovery because it's not just the British accent, which was awesome to hear, but
I'm gonna get Jackie on here, by the way.
You should. Oh my God, she has an amazing
story.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna get her.
And she always said one thing that really stuck with me. She said, well, she had a couple things that really stuck with me. But one of them was that, she said she was a woman of dignity. She was a dignified woman, and she knew who she was, and she was true to herself. And as I shared before, I thought I was true to myself. So I'm like, let's see what she's talking about. We'll see if she really knows what she's talking about. And, I started working the AA steps with her. I did the AA steps first. And I would meet her every week. I lived in the middle of like a small valley in Santana, and I would have to take one bus that left. It was rainy season when I was getting clean, so I would sit there and get soaked for hours waiting for the bus. It wasn't hours. I exaggerate. It was like 45 minutes because I didn't want to miss the bus. I showed up 45 minutes early for the bus, was soaked by the time I got to her house. She would make me a cup of tea, and we'd sit down and work step work. And she wouldn't meet with me if I didn't have step work done. Eventually she did, but, at first it was like, you need work done, you needed to do this, you need to commit to it. And at the time I was working at, when I got out of rehab, I got a job with someone who was actually in recovery. My roommate was in recovery, and my boss was in recovery, so it was awesome. I got to go to meetings every day at lunch, and, that really got me in the pattern of it. I went to a meeting every day. I went to aftercare for the rehab program I went to every Friday, again, getting soaked in the rain to get there and sometimes walking to get there because the bus was too slow. But I was determined I was going to get there, and I don't know where that drive came from. Most of it was just the fact that I was terrified because what I was doing wasn't 100% painful, and what I was doing before was. So I knew I didn't want to go back to that. I didn't know if I wanted recovery, but I was like, okay, I'll try this because it's not hurting.
Right.
So I just kept at it. There'd be times where I was sitting in my room. I had a roommate where we had a small apartment. It was a nice apartment, but I had nothing in my room. I had one mattress, no bed frame, no plants, I had a closet with a little bit of clothes and a mattress and this one tiny plant I had that I killed.
So it was like a bunker still.
It was like a bunker, and I'd sit there sometimes because I was so scared I was going to go out and use or get a bottle of something, and I'd just sit there on my bed and rock back and forth because I didn't trust myself to leave the room. And but it really helped me because, I surrounded myself with people in recovery. I surrounded myself with, I guess, how they say the winners. I can't say that I knew how to differentiate the winners from, not winners in the beginning, but I surrounded myself with people that were working on something, working the steps or working with other people or, doing meetings, chairing meetings that were doing something related to the program. And that that really helped me because, I mean, this program is all about connecting with people, and that was something I was not really ready to do. But I sat around them and I listened, you know, and I just watched them, and I tried to decide whether I actually believed they were clean or not. and I'm like, I don't know. I was very speculating in my head, and I kind of reverted to a child again. I was very ungrateful in the beginning of my recovery. I was very quiet. I didn't talk to anyone. I felt like I couldn't share it with anyone what I was feeling except my sponsor. I had started building a really good relationship with her. And, you know, I just remember getting to my first 4-step, and we finally went over all that stuff, and it was just like all those things that you had held on to so long in your recovery and tried to, like, bury, or just, you know, like, that you motherfucked while you were sitting there drinking, that one person that did that one thing to you that was going to define you forever.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those kind of things.
Got a long list of those.
You know, most of us do. And, you know, I remember going over all of that and going over the last one, and her little ritual with it, with what she did with her sponsor and what she did with her sponsees, was you burn it at the end. And I remember just being like, oh, my God, I get to burn this paper. I can't believe I just went over all this stuff. I never thought I'd ever share this with anybody. And I was going to go to the meeting and share about it. And it was rainy season in Costa Rica. And I'm sitting there outside on her balcony trying to light it, and the paper would not catch. I'm like, are you serious? You won't let me let go of my resentments? Like something is happening here. But finally, I had my final resentment was with that damn lighter. No, I'm kidding. But it finally caught, and I remember just going to the meeting and being like, guys, like, I did it. I did something. I did something that, you know, I looked at the steps when I first got there, and I was like, I'll do, like, this one. Oh, no, I'm not doing that one. Like, I'll try this one, maybe, you know. And the 4-step was definitely one of the things I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But I did it. And, you know, it was more and more, like, things like my 4-step, or just little things like realizing I don't have any, like, huge, crazy spiritual awakenings, but I think one of the more powerful ones I've had is, you know, one day I realized that I'd always had this track in my mind playing that something's going wrong, what's the next thing that's coming, you know, just waiting for the ball to drop. Thoughts that really reflected waiting for the ball to drop. And one day I just realized in my head, you know, I was telling myself, no, but it's going to be okay. And I'm like, I couldn't have just said that to myself. I don't say that, okay? Because I just honestly didn't believe it. It wasn't even something like, you know, that I had said to myself out loud, but just my inner thoughts and that inner track that plays in our head about different stuff. It was always waiting for the ball to drop, and I slowly started realizing that I was able to tell myself it's going to be okay, and that I actually believed it. You know, it wasn't just regurgitating something that someone said to me, which was out of love, but I had never believed it. You know, when someone told me it's going to be okay, I'm like, really? Because I have a lot of, you know, evidence to the contrary that it's not going to be okay. So, you know, just little things like that it's been so crazy to really see my mind and my beliefs and myself, like the person I really am, change, you know. And I'm a huge advocate of the steps. I absolutely love the steps. AA, NA, I'm working the NA ones now. They're long as hell, but I don't care because I got a lot to work on. And
well, those steps saved my life,
dude,
in the NA step working guide. It took me 4 years to finish those 12 steps in the step working guide. Saved my life.
Oh, no. I've been working on them for 2 years, and I'm only on step 5.
No. You'll be fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know, I never would have thought that this program and the suggestions and, you know, taking 12 simple steps and following 12 simple traditions and connecting with people and getting a higher power, like, I did not think that that was the road to happiness that I wanted. I didn't even think it was a road to happiness. I thought it was a road to, I don't know, brainwash or something. And it's been really weird because I still don't understand how it works. But talking about a way that I've changed, that's the kind of stuff I gravitate more toward today. I want to gravitate towards the people that have a lot of time, that talk about the solution, that, you know, that go through the troubles and share them in a meeting because that's what's real. Not like, you know, I'm definitely someone that goes in there and talks about my pink cloud stuff, but if there's something I'm going through, I share it in the meeting because that's what I was taught to do. And that's what we need to do to help each other along, I think. So, I don't know. There's been a lot of things that's changed in my recovery. You know, I got through that 4-step and I continued working the steps. I've gotten fired from jobs. I've gotten, you know, I've gone like through a weird job path, and I've gone through a weird lots of paths in recovery, but it's all been really beautiful, and it's led me to a place that it's just, I absolutely love my life today. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm looking out this window at this house that I just bought with my husband. I really can't believe that this is the life, like, I'm living, you know. Sometimes I sit here and I'm like, I'm cooking something or something. I'm like, I don't cook chicken pot pie. I get high. Like, you know, like, how did this happen? But I've been more and more learning to let go of those tapes because I don't get high anymore. I can't get high if I stop, you know, doing those things that I was talking about. But it's what I want to do because it's given me an amazing life. You know, I have my husband who's also in recovery. We met when I was very young in recovery. I did not follow that suggestion of no dating during the first year.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, Raquel. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, I always say,
calling you out.
Do as I say, not as I do in this area. Because I realize that there is a reason why they say do not get into a relationship in the first year. I've seen many great examples of why they say that, and very sad examples. Even though it was one of the more selfish things I did in early recovery, getting into a relationship, it ended up working out beautifully. I met my husband. He had went to the same clinic as I did a year before, so he was going to aftercare when I was going to aftercare still. And really, we were just friends at first. You know, he was someone that I really related to, like the way that he shared his story, the certain like resentments that he had and the struggles that he had on a daily basis, the things that were really hard for him and made him tick. Like, those are things that I really related to. So I wanted to go up and talk to him, but like the first time I went up to talk to him, he didn't say anything to me and he turned the other way.
Boy, you know, no, that doesn't sound like him at all.
No. He is a man of few words. And so I was like, okay, all right. You know, I'm not going to push myself on him, which was a huge step for me at that point, because I was used to pushing myself on any guy I could to get anything out of them. But eventually, you know, just after, I guess, showing up for a few weeks and months, and he started trusting, okay, maybe she's actually taking this seriously. We started talking, and, you know, we'd go out in groups together when we first got clean with a bunch of people, you know, that were, you know, maybe had like a year or less, and we just all hung out and went to like different things and, you know, just tried to be normal young people, which didn't really work, but we tried. We tried really hard. You know, one thing that was really huge is I remember that he had a girlfriend when I first met him, and even though I really liked him, I thought, I respect this guy too much to do anything like that. So I'm just going to sit here and be his friend if I can. Just be a fellow recovering addict. I was like, wow, okay, well, I'll just do that, I guess. And I remember he broke up with his girlfriend, and I was like, no, but you got to get back together with her. She's so nice. Like, she's normal. And he didn't want to, so he didn't listen to me, but that was okay. Because
I'm wondering if there was any motives behind that. I'm just wondering, because it was early in recovery, so, you know, anything's possible.
It's possible. And eventually we did end up getting together. It was funny. That was the first guy I ever dated. We went out on dates, and we talked to each other, and we were friends first. And it was weird because, you know, a lot of the times when we went out, we just talked about recovery stuff. It's not like we were sitting there and, you know, like, oh, like, you're so cute. I don't know, like, I'm very bad at flirting, but, you know, but it was just about normal stuff, you know, just like, well, normal for us, right? Like, I'm going through a 4-step and I hate my sponsor. Like,
there you go.
You know,
there you go. Perfect. Very normal.
Or I don't want to go to a meeting and my sponsor's telling me to go, you know, just like, I don't know, just early recovery stuff that I guess that we talk about. And it was just really about that, but we'd, you know, start going out more by ourselves. We eventually ended up getting together, and we were dating for a few years. I think we dated for like, I guess 2.5 years. We were living together, and he was working his steps, I was working my steps. There was a time that I had to just kind of be like, you got to go away. I'm working my 4-step. I'm going through a dark time right now. And it was nice because he understood that, you know, like, he's like, okay, I get that. He had already gone through his 4-step. He's like, cool, take your time. I don't know. I guess, you know, one thing has led to another, and we ended up getting married a few years ago. Oh, my God, it's almost 3 years ago now. No, it's almost 2.5. Anyway, we ended up getting married, and that's been a huge testament to my program as well, because one thing that I really resented was relationships. I didn't think they worked out. I didn't think people fell in love, and I didn't think people were faithful to each other, or honest, for that matter, in general. So, of course, you know, every relationship I started, whether it was romantic or not, was on the premises of, you know, fuck you. And if you want to work with me from that basis, cool. But, you know, or I don't trust you. And it's been so weird because it's not just, you know, my romantic relationship. It's, you know, relationship with my first sponsor and now my second sponsor, and, you know, really great friends that I have in recovery that we don't have anything to benefit from each other other than the fact that I trust you and I want to be there for you. And that's weird for me to say that, but especially in a romantic way, because I didn't have that example of that at home. I grew up in a household where my mom did not love my dad, and my dad did not love my mom. They were in it for the kids and eventually not in it at all. So it was the scariest thing for me to take this step, but, I really learned a definition of love in this program, and I knew that's what I've had for my husband. And so, I want to spend the rest of my life with him. It's been an amazing journey. We've gotten clean together. We've seen each other at our worst. I mean, like, our worst.
Oh, yeah.
Really bad. But we found love in that place. It's a really strange and beautiful and weird thing in my head, but I'm just grateful that was my experience because it could have ended very differently. So my husband will actually be celebrating 6 years in December, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah, I'm very excited too because I want to get him on the show.
I know. It'll be a very stoic story. Okay.
He does have a good story.
He does.
Love that kid.
I know. He's such a great man, and it's crazy because it's in the relationships that I have, like with the one with my husband or my sponsor or my friends, that I get to really see, like, the kind of person that I've become today because, I was talking about it with someone on my anniversary. It's like my life on its own is pretty great today. And, like, the change that I've made is amazing. But when it becomes breathtaking to me and spectacular is when I look at it in terms of the relationships that I have with other people. The love I can have for them and the honesty that I can share with them. And, I don't know, just show myself without really being afraid because I never had that. Ever until I got into this program. And it wasn't even at first. It took a few years to even feel comfortable being like that. Truly. I would still maybe say like, oh, I don't want to laugh like that because I don't know, because I'm weird. And I think that was bad to laugh a certain way because my mouth looked funny, or I didn't know how to go transition from smiling to not smiling because I thought that was a weird transition face. Like I'm very socially awkward. But I can now be myself and not worry about those small little, things around other people, which might sound small to certain people, but it's huge for me.
That's huge for everybody.
And I know we all have our stuff like that. Like that might not be everyone's, but we all have those small things. There's just so many layers. I mean, I feel like, looking at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to recovery, but I want to keep looking at it. I want my second round of steps. I have a different sponsor that was a whole process of, like you learn to bare your soul to one person, right? And then you're like, I got to bare it to another? But like, I thought I did that already. I wanted to work the steps again because the first time, like I said, it was all about that, those things that were so obvious, the stuff I had carried with me for so long. And then the second round of steps has really been about my behaviors and the fears that I still have. I mean, I uncovered a huge one in this 4-step that I just went over, just the basic fear that I'm never going to be good enough. How much that fear really still seeped into every area of my life, my relationships, my job, my, everything, with my dogs. I mean, like, it's like, it was everywhere. And it's not that I don't have it anymore, but that's the gift of recovery is you uncover something like that. And then every time you run into that next time, if you want to have the awareness for it, it loses a little bit of its power every time you run into it. It's not that I don't act out on that. It's not that I don't fall into fear, but I know that I do have the faith too. And I know that I have a different way of doing things. I know I don't have to be always full of fear or that I have to, be a workaholic or anything. I can change that stuff. Heck, if I can change the fact that, I don't want to get high anymore and become a completely different person, why wouldn't I be able to change stuff like that? And that's really what I'm seeing this second round of steps. It's weird, but I like it. We just had the miracle of being able to be, financially stable enough to buy our first house together. When, we're doing stuff like we just put a deck in, and we moved tons of dirt from the back, one shovel load at a time together. Like it's just deadlifting 210 pounds and moving dirt with a shovel that really makes me happy today. It's very strange. I didn't think that was what's going to happen when I got into this program. I didn't really know what to expect, but I knew that I couldn't keep going like I was going because I wasn't dying conveniently. So I had to find something else to do. I have my higher power, which I did not even mention enough in this talk, but that's been amazing to try to, connect with that because I never had a higher power. I dabbled in spiritual stuff, but it was more like religious stuff, and now I have something that's more personal to me. It's actually mine. It's something I feel comfortable talking to, and I do. I've been trying to get into meditation recently. That took me like 5 years to get into because I couldn't sit still and quiet my mind.
Nobody can.
But that's what I learned. It's not about quieting your mind. It's about learning to watch the thoughts go by and just being an observer. Well, that's what I think. I don't know. There might be some more to it than that. But that's what I'm learning right now, at least. And that's become a lot more attainable because I can sit here and pray and pray and pray. But if I do no listening and no awareness, then, I don't really think that's what the program is about. That's at least what I've been told. So, yeah, just with my higher power and my family and my program and my beautiful fellowship and my sponsor and my friends and my sponsees and I don't know. It's been a beautiful ride this year and these last few years. I mean, I didn't think I could have a life like this, like I said, but I do, and I'm almost scared to find out where it's going to go because I do still have that fear of when the ball is going to drop sometimes, but I don't need to go there. I just stay there for less time, I guess, today. And that's my story. And that's about it.
Oh, my God. I have been so looking forward to recording your story.
Oh.
And I'll tell you this. It's that moment that you shared about right at your bottom when you're in the hospital. And I'll never forget it. I remember the first time that I heard it. It brought me to tears then, brings me to tears now.
Me too.
I felt you. And it was so emotional, so powerful. And it's those moments that we share with others that are so impactful, and they save people's lives. They so can relate to that moment, to that bottom, to that pit of despair where you've just got no more will to live. You've just lost your will to live. And I absolutely related to so much of your story. My sister I lived in California. My sister went to UCSB.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I did that
yeah. I partied like a madman.
Dude, that place is dangerous.
In Isla Vista. Oh, they would shut it down during Halloween. You couldn't, if you didn't live there, you couldn't get in there.
Oh, I got in.
Oh no, trust me, I got in. My sister was like, hey, listen, if you want to come to the Halloween party, you got to get here early because they're going to shut the roads off at like X amount of time. Right. And I was like, I'm on my way. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm not missing this. They would set couches on fire. It was just absolute pandemonia, and I just remember when my sister was in college and thinking to myself, God, this is so awesome. Like, this is it, man. Forget about studying.
I know.
It's just rock star.
I know.
Oh, my God. It's absolutely amazing. So, again, thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us, Raquel.
I'm glad to share it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And more importantly, this is such an amazing and absolutely instrumental story for newcomers. Young women coming into the program, they need to hear this. So the closing part of our show, I call for the newcomer.
Ooh.
All right?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions about your early recovery, and you're going to respond with inspiring and insightful answers you can share with our newcomers.
I will do my best.
All right. Excellent. So, number 1, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced into recovery?
I think the biggest thing was the fact that it was my age. When I first came to rehab here, there wasn't really a lot of people my age. The next closest person I was 18, the next closest person was 24, and after that it was quite a gap. So that was hard. I told myself, I don't belong here. It's just I'm just going to stop this little thing for right now because I'm in college. That's what people do. But no, not all college members, drop out of college and, sit home getting high all day. So there was that, reality adjustment that someone gave me. But that was definitely a factor. My head kept going back to but I'm so young. Mm-hmm. But when I really looked at the facts that it didn't matter my age, it was, where I was at emotionally. I had more of an emotional bottom. And I couldn't deny that. I couldn't deny the fact that I wanted to die. So that let me know that I belonged here.
Perfect. Okay. At what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accepted that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time had developed the hope that you could recover?
I think it was kind of like the one like I had shared earlier. I don't even I can't tell you the date, I can't tell you the time or even the year, but, it was my first year. But it was just, a moment I was sitting there, and I think it was actually after I had lost my first job. We had been outsourced to a company in India, and I was just like, but my English is excellent, and what am I going to do now? And, why did they let me go? And I didn't know where I was going to go from there because I had no experience with trying to, I didn't have a good resume. I mean, I had quit every job that I had or just not showed up one day, and so I didn't have any great references or anything. I was like, what am I going to do? I don't even have like a high school diploma, but it's going to be okay. Like something will work out. And I'm like, I don't think I'd ever told myself that before, or even believed it. Maybe I said it in passing, but it didn't faze me because it's not like I believed it, but it was just really those moments where I started realizing that the tape in my head had changed from something's going to go wrong, who's going to fuck me over next, what am I going to have to do next, what I'm going to have to do to, make this happen, to it's going to be okay. Something will pan out.
Actually, that's a very beautiful realization in recovery.
Right?
And we I've been there. I know that aha moment. And when you shift gears and you stop going from, absolute panic to, you know what?
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. My higher power is never going to give me anything that I can't handle.
Yeah, exactly.
There was that saying. It goes, if he got me to it, he'll get me through it.
True. Although my friend does say when someone says that to her, like, sometimes I think God thinks I can handle a lot. But we can. That's why I think we've been chosen to get sober, because we have gotten through a lot, and we're capable of doing it.
100%. Yes. Do you have a favorite book you would recommend to a newcomer that you read in early recovery?
Well, yes, I do. Well, I have two. I have the, what is it called? The Living Sober book. I don't know who it's by, but it's called Living Sober. It's more of an AA literature, and I like the big book a lot just because, it talks about like the history of it, and it goes to show you how long people have been struggling with this problem, and it goes to like show you that if it was not for the part of one addict helping another and sharing their experience with another, that this program would not work, because it talks about all the other, different ways that they tried and how they didn't work, and how he's just like, and then he drank again, and then he drank again, and then, you've read it, you know what it's like. And then, it just goes through all of that history and really shows you where the roots are from. And actually, I have another one I like. And then it's an NA-approved literature. It's called The Journey Continues. It's something that they came out with a few years ago, and it's a bunch of collections of different things, but it's a really great book, too. So those three are my favorite.
Perfect. Thank you. And what is the best suggestion you have ever received?
Keep coming back. Keep coming back, not just when you relapse on drugs, if you do, but keep coming back because you will relapse on behavior. You will do stuff you need to share with other people. Life will throw stuff that you need to share with other people, and if you don't, you're just going to sit there and have it in your head and go over it a million different times and imagine all the horrible scenarios that are going to happen. So keep coming back for a lot of different reasons, but if you keep coming back and you just show up, that's another thing that my sponsor always used to say to me, just show up and something will happen.
Yes, that's very true. And if you could give a newcomer only one suggestion, what would it be?
Keep coming back. I'm really big on that one. No, keep coming back and work the steps.
All right.
Get a sponsor and work the steps, because it does say at the beginning there, the only wrong way to do it is to do it by yourself. But if you keep coming back and work the steps, something will happen. You don't have to worry about the God part. You don't have to worry about getting your life together and how you have to plan all of that, because if you just do those three things, keep coming back, get a sponsor, and work the steps, it's weird how it pans out, but it does. And I've seen too many examples of that to believe otherwise. Don't leave 5 minutes before the miracle. Amen. All right. Great suggestions, Raquel. And before we say goodbye, I have one more question for you. Sure. Of all the meetings you have attended anywhere in the world, which group is your favorite, and where is this group located? Oh, that's easy. It's the Women's Vigilance Group in San Jose, Costa Rica. It's at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if anyone's in the area. Yeah, there's also a great meeting that's at that same time. It's the men's meeting. Yeah. I haven't been to that one, but I hear it's good. Ask Alan. He'll tell you. Okay. Oh, awesome. All right. We have now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida. Pura vida. Thanks for having me. Thanks again, Rocky. Bye, honey. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Share Recovery Podcast. To check out the show notes page on this interview, or to thank our guests for sharing their story, go to www.thesharepodcast.com. While you're on the website, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter to stay up to date on the latest news, podcasts, and interviews. Want to be one of our guests and share your story? Then go to our website and click on the Share Your Story button. We share our inspiring recovery stories every Tuesday, so subscribe to our show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio to get your free weekly download. We'll see you then.